on this one, but I finally got the chance to watch 2021's Candyman. So this is a direct sequel to the 1992 film of the same name, and it is a continuation of the events that happened from that story. And just like the first one, it is, again, a very political telling of the story, and they do a really good job showing what Candyman means to the neighborhood of Cabrini Towers in Chicago, and just how the legend has evolved and stayed within that community, and of course to the effects it left on the people from the original events of the film, and also to how not just the legend of him, but how Candyman himself has evolved through this timeline. And they definitely do take a ton of really good things that build off of the first movie and create another pretty terrifying and gruesome story in this 2021 sequel. So of course the director of this film is Nia DaCosta, and it was written by himself, Jordan Peele, and Wynn Rosenfield. And the movie stars Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Tanya Paris, Coleman Domingo makes his way into this film as well, and it has a pretty stunning and really amazing cast. So without further ado, let me get into my review for 2021's Candyman. So right off the bat, I want to say that if you haven't seen the 1992 version of this film, before you go into this one, definitely watch that, or at least on YouTube, watch a Candyman in 10 minutes video just to brush up on the story, because there are a lot of things that they, and just the legends that they pull from the first movie. There's a lot of characters that they reference in the first film, events that they reference in the first film, and just a lot of the lore that they pull from that first one they bring into this as well. And I think it is very much needed to, like I said, at the very least watch one of those 10-minute explained videos before you jump into this one, or else you might get lost in the history of Cabrini Towers. But I really like how in this movie they evolved that neighborhood and showed what happens a lot of the time to very poor neighborhoods in urban cities, like they did with Cabrini Towers here, where it's they create basically the really bad unlivable housing, and then once all the people who depend on livable housing have to move out because the conditions are so bad, like businessmen and people like that will come in to these neighborhoods and basically build them up into, I don't want to say utopian paradises, but to basically steal the land from underneath them because no one's living in there anymore. And there's a lot of history that goes into like the new developments of the Cabrini Towers neighborhood, and then also too just the remnants of what was left over from the low-income housing that they have all around it. And they do a really good job, like I said, just keeping Candyman as a mythological figure almost in this neighborhood. And just how they've grown the legend is really cool too. How in this film we see Candyman as a little bit less of a I'll kill anyone who summons me sort of being, where he is a vengeful spirit. And they add a lot of stories and a lot of people, a lot of lore, and a lot of history to the being of Candyman, and they do a really good job showcasing that through Anthony McCoy, who's played by Yahya in this film, all throughout his character and his journey throughout this film, and his history, his personal connections with Candyman, and just the story that's kind of outside of his art. But Anthony's character in this film is a character who is drawn to the art side of Chicago, and he likes to do a lot of political statements in terms of his paintings and his artwork. And he comes across the Candyman lore and the storyline and becomes so obsessed with it that he's painting it. He really dives into the legend. He does a ton of research, and it's mostly, he gets a lot of this through William Burke, who's Coleman Domingo's character in this, who really explains what Candyman was to the neighborhood and how the legend still lives on today and how he is a real figure. And of course, when murders start happening around Anthony's friends, or I should say acquaintances in the art world in Chicago, once they start getting murdered from being around his artwork, it truly drags him into the transformation of being a part of the Candyman lore. And it is pretty terrifying and gruesome what happens in this film to a lot of the characters, where the murders are pretty gruesome and grisly. Some of them happen off screen or from a distance, so you don't quite get to see the brutality up and close like a lot of horror movies do, but you definitely hear it, and you do get to see some aftermath of what it is. And if you're a fan of gore and things like that, there is definitely a lot in this film, and it's shot really well in terms of some of the metaphors and the foreshadowing that they put into this film are just done really cool. I loved all the scenes with the puppets to tell the story, and even to the beginning of this film is letters of the studios, and like the title sequence is basically flipped on us, so we're reading it backwards as we normally would, because that's the perspective of us being in the shoes of Candyman on the other side of the mirror, which I thought was really, really cool, and I like the things that they did about this. And I think, I don't know if I could say they took inspiration from, but if you really liked a lot of The Haunting of Hill House or The Haunting of Bly Manor, and looking at things in the background of the shots and just how much there is in terms of storytelling in the background, there's a lot of that here in terms of scares, in terms of storytelling, and they do a really, really good job with that. If you're paying attention to everything in the background, I loved seeing all those scenes, and it's very, very effective, like I said, in terms of the horror and in terms of the storytelling that they use in these shots to tell the story of Candyman. And like I said too, I just really like the journey of these characters, and even though it can be a little confusing at times of what they're going for in terms of having all these people and all this history building towards the lore of Candyman, it doesn't often feel like that, so you're not certain what they're doing with having all these characters, and it's like, who truly is Candyman? Was it a real person? Is it a real, like, metaphysical being? What is Candyman? They do a really good job at the end of this film, some of it leaving it up to interpretation, but truly having a definitive answer as to if truly what Candyman represents to the neighborhoods, to racial injustice in America, and a lot of things like that, which I think make a ton of sense to the character and to the lore, and of course too, just to the setting of where Candyman takes place in, I want to say, low-income housing Chicago. And I do want to say too, just before you go into this film, know that this is more commentary than it is horror, which I found the first film was as well, the original 1992 version, where of course it has its horror, its scary moments, but it is a very politically driven story about racial injustice in America and how that has evolved and at the same time stayed the same as it makes its way to contemporary modern day American society. And I truly thought this was an absolutely brilliant tale and just addition to the first film, where this film adds a lot to the characters of the first film, to the lore of Candyman. It just completely builds upon the success of what the first movie set up, and I love it when sequels can do that. And truly, I just thought it was a brilliant follow-up to the 1992 original Candyman film. So with all of this taken together, I really enjoyed this as a horror movie, as a political commentary, as a social commentary, and that is why I'm going to give Candyman an 8 out of 10. Highly recommend it to anyone really, but of course do watch the first film, or like a little synopsis, so you know what's going on and you know the history that you're going to get in this film. But of course, if you've seen Candyman, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. And if you want to check out all of my other movie reviews, you can do so, or just anything I do on this channel, you can do so by clicking in my playlist down below, and I also link them up top here. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you like what you see on the channel, of course subscribe and turn on the little ring around if you want to know when I upload new videos. If you want to check out everything I do live stream or video game wise, there's a link in the description of this video and my channel to my Twitch, so you can head on over there. And there's also a link to the Media Mountain, which is my Discord, where we talk about movies, video games, TV, comic books, music, basically everything that's awesome in this world. So you can definitely join that amazing community and help make it even more amazing than it is already. But yes, definitely go check out Candyman. It is still in theaters, and it is also too on most rental services now. So yes, check it out. The movie is 90 minutes long, and yeah, awesome guys.